In the days of ancient Israel, the city of Samaria was trapped.
A massive Syrian army surrounded the walls, cutting off all hope. Famine gripped the city with a cruel hand. Even the lowliest scraps were sold for silver as the people reached the brink of starvation.
The king of Israel walked the walls in sackcloth, his heart heavy with grief and anger, blaming the heavens for their suffering. In his desperation, he turned his wrath toward the prophet Elisha, sending an executioner to take the life of the man of God.
But Elisha remained calm.
He declared, "By this time tomorrow, food will be plentiful and cheap in the gates of Samaria." Outside the gates, 4 men sat in the shadows.
Lepers, excluded from the city and certain to die. They faced a grim choice. Why sit here until we die? They asked. If we stay, we starve. If we go to the Syrians, maybe they will spare us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, these 4 outcasts began a slow, limping journey toward the enemy camp, expecting certain death. But God had gone before them. A supernatural sound, the thunder of thousands of chariots,
Echoed through the valley, terrifying the Syrians.
convinced a massive army was attacking. The Syrian soldiers fled in total panic, leaving behind their tents and all their riches.
When the lepers arrived, they found a ghost camp.
No soldiers, only tents overflowing with food, fine clothing, and gold. The outcasts who had nothing suddenly had everything.
They feasted and hid treasures in the sand, lost in the miracle.
Then, one paused.
"We are not doing right," he said. "This is a day of good news, and we are keeping it to ourselves." Compelled by duty, they returned to the city walls in the dead of night, shouting the news to the watchmen. The king feared a trap, but scouts soon returned with incredible news. The Syrian camp was indeed deserted and full of riches. The gates of Samaria swung wide. A tide of hungry people rushed out. A desperate surge toward the promised land. The skeptical captain, who had mocked the prophet's words, was caught in a surge, seeing the abundance but never tasting. Just as Elisha had foretold, fine flour and barley were sold for a pittance. The famine was broken in a single day.
Elisha looked on in peace, while the lepers,
The forgotten ones.
stood as the unlikely heroes of Israel's deliverance.
God often uses the marginalized to save the many.
Deliverance often comes from the most unexpected places.